the Akkadian Empire. The first empire ever. Before borders, before flags, before countries were a thing, there were cities. Uruk, Lagash, each with its own king, its own god, and its own beef with everyone else. Enter Sargon, a guy who started as a cupbearer and ended up becoming the GOAT of ancient power moves. Around 2334 BC, he takes over Akkad. Then he says, why stop there? So he steamrolls the Sumerian city-states, builds the first professional army, centralizes power, makes himself not just king, but king of kings. His empire stretches from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. He slaps his name on everything. He invents a postal system, literal dudes sprinting around with clay tablets. He enforces a single language, Akkadian, and he starts using religion as propaganda. Temples now honor the ruler as much as the gods. And just like that, empires are a thing. But here's the twist. The bigger you get, the harder you fall. Sargon dies. His grandkids? Not quite Sargon material. Rebellions pop up. Drought hits, nomads raid, and after 180 years, the forever empire is gone. But the blueprint stuck. Conquer, centralize, expand, collapse. Every future empire just copied Sargon, with slightly better plumbing. Ancient Egypt. 3,000 years of divine rule and stone flexing. Ancient Egypt didn't just rise, it endured. It kicked off around 3100 BC when King Narmer united the land. Suddenly there was one Nile, one crown, and one man playing God. Pharaohs weren't just kings, they were divine CEOs. They ran the temples, owned the land, and claimed the afterlife as a job perk. To prove it, they built pyramids the size of small mountains. Not tombs, power statements. The Nile was the engine, it flooded like clockwork, made farming easy, and turned Egypt into a tax-generating machine. Grain in, gold out, empire scaled, and religion everywhere. Jackal gods, falcon gods, cat gods, all in a cosmic HR department managing the afterlife. Egypt survived for millennia, but it couldn't outrun time. First the Assyrians, then the Persians, then Alexander, then Rome. By Cleopatra's time, Egypt was ancient history in real time, but their influence, eternal. We still borrow their math, copy their art, and stare at their pyramids like, wait, how did they build that? The Persian Empire, the first empire that actually organized itself. Around 550 BC, Cyrus the Great pulls off a power move. He topples the Medes, conquers Babylon, and rolls into the ancient world like he owns the place. Because soon, he does. Under Cyrus, then Darius, Persia becomes the empire. From modern-day Turkey to India. One king, 70-plus ethnic groups, zero democracy. And yet, it kinda worked. Why? They didn't just conquer, they managed. Satraps ran provinces, roads moved armies and information. They let local religions stay, respected cultures, and kept things stable for a while. They even had a postal system, Royal Road style, way before FedEx. And Darius dropped the world's first written legal code that wasn't just obey or die. But then, they poked the Greeks. And the Greeks poked back. Marathon, Thermopylae, Alexander. It all comes crashing down by 330 BC. Persia didn't last forever, but it left the playbook. Tolerant rule, solid roads, and empires that don't need to burn everything to run everything.
Alexander's Empire. Built in a decade, gone in one breath. In 336 BC, a 20-year-old kid from Macedonia becomes king. His name, Alexander. And he's not here to rule, he's here to conquer the known world. First stop, Persia. He crushes them. Then Egypt. They crown him like a god. Then he pushes east, through deserts, mountains, and mutinies, all the way to India. His strategy? Move fast, hit hard, build cities named Alexandria, and keep going. He fuses Greek, Persian, and Egyptian cultures like it's a world tour. And honestly, it works. But it never stops. By 32, he's undefeated and also exhausted. One fever later, he dies without an heir, and the empire instantly splits. His generals fight over the pieces like kids with a broken toy. Shortest empire on the list, but impact? Massive. Greek ideas spread everywhere. Language, science, architecture, drama, all thanks to one guy who thought borders were optional.
The Roman Empire. They didn't invent civilization, they just franchised it.
Rome starts as a scrappy republic in 509 BC, all roads, togas, and Senate drama. But ambition doesn't chill. They conquer Italy, then Carthage, then Greece. And suddenly, Rome owns the Mediterranean. Julius Caesar shows up, breaks the rules, gets stabbed 23 times. Out of that chaos comes Augustus, the first emperor. Boom. The Roman Empire begins. They build roads, aqueducts, giant arenas. They give us Latin, law, and the calendar we still use. And yeah, they crucify, enslave, and tax like pros. But empires don't last forever. Corruption grows, barbarians knock. Rome splits in two. The West collapses in 476 AD. The East, Byzantium, holds on for another 1,000 years. Rome didn't just fall. It evolved, copied itself, and haunted Europe for centuries. Even today, we're still kind of Roman.
The Han Dynasty, ancient China's masterclass in empire building. Founded in 206 BC, after the brutal Qin dynasty burned out, the Han stepped in with a better idea. Less terror, more balance, still lots of taxes. They built a massive bureaucracy, trained scholars instead of warlords, and made Confucianism the rulebook.
If you could pass the imperial exam, you could run the empire. Merit over bloodline. Kinda revolutionary.
The Silk Road? Han made it happen. They linked China to the West, traded silk for gold, and spread ideas without even trying. Also, paper, seismographs, and a census that actually counted people. It wasn't all peaceful. Border wars with nomads, corruption, and rebellions chipped away at the core. By 220 AD, it all unraveled. But the Han set the mold. Every future Chinese dynasty, Tang, Song, Ming, tried to copy their style. Because the Han weren't just rulers. They were the standard.
The Abbasid Caliphate, when the Islamic world ran on science, trade, and serious architecture.
In 750 AD, the Abbasids overthrew the Umayyads and took the caliphate east. Their new capital? Baghdad. And they built it from scratch. Circular, massive, and meant to impress. Unlike the conquest-heavy empires before them, the Abbasids went full brain mode. They translated Greek texts, invented algebra, mapped the stars, and wrote medical textbooks centuries ahead of Europe. The House of Wisdom was basically the first global think tank. Astronomy, chemistry, poetry, all booming. If it had an idea, it lived in Baghdad. Trade thrived too. Camels and caravans moved everything from spices to scholars across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. But then came power struggles, revolts, and the Mongols. In 1258, Baghdad was sacked and burned. Game over. Still, the Abbasid legacy is huge. They turned the Islamic world into an intellectual superpower and showed that ideas can be just as powerful as armies.
The Mongol Empire, history's biggest land grab, on horseback.
In 1206, Genghis Khan unites the Mongol tribes with one goal: conquer everything. And somehow, he kinda does. The Mongols sweep across Asia like a sandstorm. Fast, brutal, unstoppable. They take China, Persia, Russia, even threaten Europe before turning back. But here's the twist. They weren't just destroyers. They protected trade, standardized laws, and created history's safest version of the Silk Road. Under their rule, ideas and goods flowed freely: paper, gunpowder, and yes, the Black Plague. By the late 1200s, the empire splinters into khanates, still powerful, but no longer unified. The speed that built it also broke it. But at its peak, one man ruled from the Pacific to the edge of Europe. And he did it without a single skyscraper, just horses and raw strategy.
The Ottoman Empire, 6 centuries of strategy, swords, and sultans. In 1299, a small Turkish beylik starts expanding, slowly, then all at once. By 1453, they take Constantinople, rename it Istanbul, and end the Byzantine Empire in one shot. The Ottomans stretch across 3 continents, from Hungary to Arabia to North Africa. They run a multi-ethnic, multi-faith empire with ruthless efficiency. Their secret sauce? Janissaries. Elite soldiers taken as kids, trained like machines, loyal to the Sultan. Architecture booms, trade thrives, and coffee becomes a lifestyle. They turn Istanbul into the crossroads of the world. But by the 1800s, the cracks show. Nationalism rises, Europe modernizes, and the sick man of Europe nickname sticks. After World War I, it's over. The empire dissolves, but its legacy? Still in the skyline, the cuisine, and the borders it left behind.
The Spanish Empire. Gold, God, and global domination. In 1492,
Columbus sails west, Spain accidentally discovers the New World, and immediately claims all of it. They conquer the Aztecs, Incas, and half of South America. Gold floods in, empires crumble, Spain becomes filthy rich, and very Catholic. For 300 years, the sun never sets on Spanish territory. But inflation, rebellion, and bad royal decisions bring it crashing down. Still, their language, culture, and cathedrals all over the map.
The British Empire. Tea, trains, and total world coverage. It starts with trade and ends with nearly a quarter of the planet under one flag. From India to Canada to Australia, the Brits plant colonies, build railroads, and rewrite borders. Civilization was the brand, exploitation was the business. By the 1800s, they ruled over 400 million people. Then came rebellions, 2 world wars, and the slow goodbye. But English, cricket, and awkward small talk? Still going strong.
The Soviet Union, built on revolution, collapsed on purpose. In 1917, the Russian Empire gets overthrown. Lenin takes over, builds a state where the workers rule, on paper. Under Stalin, it becomes a totalitarian powerhouse. Mass industrialization, gulags, propaganda everywhere. They defeat Hitler, launch Sputnik, and race the US to the moon, and to the brink of nuclear war. But by the 80s, the economy's crumbling and people want out. In 1991, the USSR dissolves. Quietly, shockingly. Empire gone. But the tension still echoing. Empires rise and fall. But the Explainiac? We're just getting started. Hit subscribe to stay updated on new videos.